Welcome back to Deuteronomy 3, part 3 of the Deuteronomy series. This is another very brief lesson here in Deuteronomy 3, and basically it ends with us learning that we should not expect more than has been given to us. Yahuwah has designated or pre-designated certain things, certain purposes, certain functions to all people, really. And as far as Israel goes, we are taught here in Deuteronomy 3 that we should not expect more than Yah has designated for us or purposed for us. And we are going to learn this brief message in just a moment. So, two principles here within this lesson. The first is not to expect God to change his mind. Do not expect God to change his mind. And the second one is do not expect more than God has purposed for you. And again, remember that these are lessons that we should be teaching our children and our grandchildren. And we are going to elaborate on these just a little more right after this recap. So if you recall, in lessons 1 and 2, we read about how the Hebrews came out of Egypt and they went into the land of the Amorites. And when they went to the land of the Amorites, they were supposed to to conquer this land. I'm sorry, or we say it's read capture in Hebrew. But the word is really conquer, better translated in English. And that we're supposed to conquer the Amorites' land, but we don't listen, we lose faith, we just kind of step out of bounds, we become presumptuous, and it causes us to uh, go into battle without Yahuwah, without God on our side, and we lose this battle. And so Moses and Yahuwah takes us out of the land of the Amorites and brings us through the lands of our families. And as we go through these lands, we learn that we should have faith because Yahuwah is the one who fights for us, and he has done so for others in our family. He did so for Esau and his descendants. He did so for the Moabites. He did so for the Ammonites, and we learned that he will also do the same for us. It is at that moment that we return back to the land of the Amorites yet again. Because remember, Yahuwah has said, he has ordained this land to be ours. He said that we will conquer this land, and so we have to conquer this land, even if we didn't conquer it on the first try. And so we end up back at the land of the Amorites, where this time, in obedience, Israel conquers the land of the Amorites. They conquered the land of the Amorites. And in Deuteronomy 3, this land is being redistributed amongst three Israelite families: the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the Manassites. Okay, and so these three families are receiving the land on this side of the Jordan, which was once the land of the Amorites. And they are living next to their other family members, Esau, the Moabites, and the Ammonites, on this side of the Jordan. And when the land is distributed, uh, the Israelites basically they distribute the land, and Moses instructs the people per God's command to allow all the women and children and all the possessions to live in that land until their lands are conquered. And so the plan is, as the armies go forth and conquer the lands on the other side of the Jordan, they will not bring all of Israel with them anymore. Instead, the women and children are going to stay on this side of the Jordan over here, and the army is going to cross over and go into the land of Israel to conquer the land. But before they cross over, Moses has a discussion with Yahuwah that leads us to our point in this lesson. Principle number 1, do not expect Yah to change his mind because of your flattery, especially. And so in verse 23 is where this dialogue between Moses and Yahuwah takes place. And Moses is telling the people of Israel about the conversation that he had with Yahuwah. And he says, and I begged of Yahuwah, saying, Lord, Yahuwah, you are the painting ones, the disease to the perceptions of your servant. The mark of your greatness and the mark of your hand is my might. There is no God in heaven and in earth who does as you do and like your might. And so most of us sees this as a proclamation of reverence. Um, but we'll see how Yahuwah sees it. And what's happening here is Moses is telling Yah that you're in control of me. You control what I perceive as your servant. My perceptions are because of you. And he says, the mark of your greatness and the mark of your hand is my might. So all the strength that I have is because of you. And then he says, there is no God in heaven and in earth who can do what you can do and who has the power that you have. And so we're going to see just how Yahuwah takes this proclamation of reverence, as we would call it. And 25 it says, and I will cross her, please, and I will see the mark of the land that is functional, which is on the other side of the Jordan, the hill that is functional, and Lebanon. And so Moses says this great proclamation of quote unquote reverence, which only turns out to be flattery. Moses attempts to flatter God before he asked him to allow him to cross over the Jordan and go into the promised land on the other side of the Jordan, in the region on the other side of the Jordan. And he's saying, Yah, everything that I am is because of you, so let me go up. Or Yah, you are great, so let me go up. And in this very next verse, Yahuwah tells us how he feels about those proclamations of reverence, which are really flattery that we say to Yahuwah prior to asking him to change his mind about something, right? We call this prayer most often. In religious circles, we call this thing prayer. And this is what Moses is doing. And so how does Yahuwah respond? In 26, it says, and you crossed Yahuwah in me. I would no longer watch you. And he did not listen to me. And Yahuwah said to me, you better never let these words come from your lips to me again. And so that's how Yahuwah takes it. Yahuwah says, don't ever speak of this thing again. And then he tells him, he says, go up to the top of the Pisgah and lift your eyes, look west, look north, look south, look east, and see with your eyes, perceive with your eyes only. It says, because you will not cross this Jordan. And so Yahuwah becomes offended really by Moses' attempt to flatter him. Moses' prayer is not really a good thing. Not only is his prayer here a good thing, it was an attempt to flatter God into changing his mind, but also it was offensive because this type of prayer, this type of so-called reverence, this flattery, assumes that Yah doesn't know that he is great, that he is God, that he is all-powerful. And so if I tell him and make him feel good, as if he were a man, then he's going to change his mind. But Yah is not a man. The thing about Yah's plans is that he is omnipresent. He is omnipotent. He knows what's going to happen before it happens. He even knew that Moses was going to give this pitiful show of so-called reverence or flattery before he even did it. But Moses goes and Moses, he makes this attempt to flatter Yah into allowing him to cross the Jordan and go into the land that we now know as the Promised Land. And Yah says, you better never say these things again. And I just want to read, I say better never. That's my rendition of what was actually said. But I'm going to read to you exactly what was said so that you know I am not making this up. Um, and this is 26, and 26 says, and Yahuwah said to me, many you have lift a word to me again in this word. Many you have never, so much never. You better never. That's how we say it these days. When we're fussing at our kids, for example, they keep asking you something about or asking you for something that you have already said no for. That is what is happening. Remember, Yah is a father, literally a father to us, and He treats us like a father treats his son. Moses is the one who revealed that to us, and within these past few chapters that we've studied. And in this case, it's no different. Moses is asking for something that Yah has already explained that he is not getting. And so, just like we would, Yah says, you better never let that come out your mouth again. Don't ask me again. No is no, right? And that is essentially what is happening here with Moses. And Moses, again, the important thing is Yah already knows what will be. He has already destined us for a particular purpose. And Moses is very well aware of his purpose. Moses has already stated that, my purpose is to name these wisdoms, knowledges, and understandings to your heads, let you know what is, give you the law, but then that's it. I can't go with you after that. All I can do is give it to you, and you have to do something with it. You have to bear your own mark. So it's not that Moses doesn't know. Moses already knows. And because of that, he offends Yahuwah. He offends Yahuwah greatly in asking him this thing that he already knew could not and would not be. Now, the very next verse kind of supports this idea that we should not expect more than has been purposed for us. We also saw it in chapter 2, where um, Israel is warned 3 times that the land that belongs to their family members, Esau, the Moabites, and the Ammonites, does not and will never belong to them. So they just assume not even think about it, right? And so this principle, this idea that what you are purposed for is what you are purposed for, and when your purpose is accomplished, your purpose is accomplished. It is reiterated here in Deuteronomy 3 and 28, where it says, and the command of Joshua is to press and seize, because he will cross over ahead of this people, and he will cause them to inherit their mark and the mark of the land which you see. And so remember, Yahuwah is talking to Moses. He told Moses, he said, get up, look north, south, east, west, and know that you will not be crossing, because Joshua will. And so Yahuwah reminds Moses, you have served your purpose, sir, and it is over for you now. You have served your purpose. You knew what your purpose was. You lived it out. You did it. Thank you. Good job. But now it's time for you to come home. And it's time for this next generation, Joshua, and as we'll see later, Caleb, to take over this, take over this journey into the promised land, to deliver the inheritance to the people, to cross over ahead of them and conquer this land which Yahuwah has given to them. And so again, don't expect more than has been purposed for you. What we call prayer is our attempt to flatter God into changing his mind, and it's just outright offensive. Um, True prayer is contemplation according to the words and will of the Most High God, Yahuwah Elohim. That is true prayer. Prayer is not asking for things that did not belong to us in the first place. Prayer is asking God rather to understand what does belong to us and to understand how to accomplish that thing that we have been purposed for. That is prayer. Prayer is not asking for the things that we have not been purposed for and that has not been purposed for us, but asking how to do the things that are purposed for us. And so as we leave this Deuteronomy chapter 3, there's a great message that we should understand and teach to our children and to our grandchildren, and it is that prayer is not an attempt to, or it should not be an attempt to flatter the Most High God into giving us what we want. Rather, it should be an opportunity taken to ask of God, to request direction and understanding regarding what is ours and what does belong to us. So I hope that this message blesses you. Shalom. So glad to see you're still here. Thank you for watching Deuteronomy chapter 3 lesson video. Please stay tuned for Deuteronomy 4, which will be posted on YouTube and Facebook shortly.